Zdrowie utro. I'm afraid this is all the Russian I know. Hello everyone. It's really great to be with you here today at Media Makers 2016 in Moscow. My name is Kai and I wish my brand Bild would be as popular in Russia as the German band Rammstein. But for the moment, I'm afraid we have to be fine with, as you said, being Europe's biggest news brand. A news brand that is on a journey that is both difficult and exciting, and this is my topic today. How did we transform Europe's biggest newspaper into a digital giant? Okay, at least we hope to do so. We are still far away from where we want to be, but I thought the title sounded quite good. And it's true that we at Bild managed to have some good first experiences in the age of digital change. This gives us hope, and this experience I would like to share with you today. When traditional media companies complain about lagging behind, it's like saying, my children are so badly brought up and so badly behaved. How could I complain? It is my job. And I think it's very simple. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf. The digital revolution has turned our previous business model upside down. It's an enormous challenge, but it's also a great opportunity, and that's why I think we should embrace the future. And to put it in a rule of three, for me, this means AAA. Accept, analyze, and attack. First, we have to accept, because we can't stop innovation. For decades, our brand Bild was very successful in printing news on dead wood in paper form and telling people, after the sun had risen, what happened yesterday. This could have going on and continued for many more decades. It could, but it didn't. The brutal truth is, in Germany, the circulation of printed newspapers has decreased from 30 million copies sold every day in 1983 to our recent figure of just 16 million a day. I was born in 1964. I grew up in a generation that was used to fixed information rituals. In the morning, the newspaper; in the evening, news on TV. That is part of my DNA. Young people today have a totally different media socialization. They grow up on these social platforms in the internet. These are the places where they meet their friends and view the content they are interested in. For the millennial generation, the virtual world is more real than the real world. For them, fixed information rituals no longer exist. And of course, we don't meet them physically at the kiosk. 79% of all 12 to 17-year-olds in Germany have a smartphone with internet access. 79%. They pick up their smartphone up to 160 times a day, but only twice to make a phone call, and all the rest is just about content. This is what a day in the life of a mobile user looks like in 2016. On average, their phones have 33 apps installed, 12 of which they use on a daily basis. 80% of their time is spent on 3 of these apps. This means that for nearly 4 hours per day, they almost exclusively use Facebook, WhatsApp, and Google Chrome. Therefore, it is not surprising that in 2016, in the US alone, for every new dollar spent on online advertising, 85 cents goes to Google or Facebook. Here's a story. Some weeks ago, the 11-year-old son of a colleague of mine, Ben, called his mother in the newsroom and was completely shocked. At home, the Wi-Fi was down. No technician was near to help. This meant for him no YouTube videos, no Netflix, no Apple TV, no series on demand. He was shocked, and he said to his mom, "Mom, I'm doomed. Now all I can watch is free TV. I have to watch what they tell me I have to watch." What I want to say is this: for a millennial, not being able to choose what, when, and where he wants to watch is nothing less than a catastrophe. Let's be honest. What is a newspaper or a magazine? It's the same. It's linear TV. One size fits all. Everyone gets the same. So we simply have to accept our traditional product on paper has no right in future to exist in the digital world, and that's why we have to reinvent our brand. And this is where I come to chapter 2, analyze. On the occasion of our founders' 100 birthdays in May 2012, our CEO Matthias Döpfner raised the question, what would Axel Springer do in the digital age in order to save his business model? His answer was very simple: go to the Silicon Valley. Go to the place where all the disruption is coming from. And this was not only a trip for 2 weeks. It was a trip for an entire year. 3 top-managed guys from Axel Springer were going to the Silicon Valley, including me. To begin with, we did not stay in a hotel, but we rented a house in the center of it in Palo Alto. In one afternoon, we bought everything that 3 men on a gap year need at IKEA. And we shared a flat. 3 guys at the tender age of the mid-40s. Right at the first weekend, we met a young guy called Katalin Voss. He was a freshman at Stanford. We were not allowed to pay him a salary, but there was one thing we could do. We said, you will be our student ambassador. We will pay your tuition fee for the next 3 years. And the only thing you have to do is the following. You have to bring in interesting students and startup entrepreneurs from Stanford to our house every week. And only a few weeks later, the German mention of Axel Springer had already become an attraction for the Stanford students and startup entrepreneurs. I think the fact that our fridge was always full with beer made an important impact as well. What did we bring home to Berlin after 1 year being in the Silicon Valley? Did we find the next big thing? Well, I think after 1 year, the most important thing we learned was about culture, about cultural conditions that actually enable innovation and disruption. And the first important rule was find a new way to fuck up. It's about failure. When something goes wrong in Germany, when something goes wrong at Axel Springer, first of all, we try to find a guilty person that we can blame and then fire. In Silicon Valley, it's the opposite. Mistakes are not only allowed, mistakes count as a proof of experience. Failure is a precondition of success. Only if failure is allowed, it generates an atmosphere for passion for experiments. Second, it's all about technology. In Germany and in most parts of Europe, unfortunately, new technologies are perceived as a threat. In Silicon Valley, technologies are understood as an opportunity. Technology as an opportunity to improve the quality of life. Third, entrepreneurs are rock stars. The point at Stanford University is not to be rich, to be pretty, or athletic. Virtually every student in Stanford has experiences with founding a company. Entrepreneurship is a high good. At the university, it is the most important social currency. Speed and alertness are essential. 3 months are a lifetime in Silicon Valley. The big tech companies usually put out a product in an unfinished state. like Steve Jobs said, 85% is enough. The user will do the rest. Neighborhood and collaboration. Despite all competition, the readiness to support each other, to share and to talk openly about all kinds of ideas is so strong that it is unlike anything I have ever seen before. People in the valley, they help each other out. It is, so to say, a strategic act of generosity. The iPhone was an ingenious invention by Apple, but even more ingenious was the invention of the App Store, opening up this company's flagship product to outsiders. That was really revolutionary. And the most important point, love your employees. At the center of attention in the Silicon Valley are the employees. The focus on the value of each individual employee. Why? Because at the end, talent is the only sustainable competitive advantage. And since then, for me too, saying, in my company, everyone can do what I want, no longer exists. The most important conclusion for us after 1 year in the Silicon Valley was very simple. We have to change. And digitization is coming much faster, much radical than we had probably expected. And this brings me to chapter 3, attack. If you want to change your company, it first requires a change in the mindset of your employees. And I mean all employees. A couple of speedboats never ever will pull an oil tanker. Our approach was, before others are going to cannibalize us, we will cannibalize ourselves. First of all, this meant we had to be relentless honest to ourselves. No more sacred cows. Everybody had to understand nothing lasts forever anymore. Not a daily newspaper, not a publishing house, not an entire industry. Our CEO, Matthias Döpfner, declared in 2013, I don't even know whether the Axel Springer company will still exist in 5 years. In order to stay flexible for digital acquisitions, we sold part of our journalistic print DNA of our company. Like, for example, the #1 German TV magazine, Hört zu. For decades, this would have been unimaginable. However, we are convinced it was the right decision, because you never ever will be able to digitize a pure TV magazine for a linear TV audience. Hört zu was, and Hört zu still is, extremely profitable, but the number of readers go down every year. It is not that they cancel their subscription. They do something different. They simply die. Totally, nowadays, I think we have created an atmosphere inside the company where everything is questioned that is old in order to create something new. Because we are convinced you can't use yesterday's work of working to build tomorrow's solutions. I think that change is an elementary top-down process, at least in the beginning. That's why I had a change team fly in from Germany to California while I was still there. The team already started planning our restructuring with me before I returned back to Germany. And that is why I stood there after coming back on the first day after my return and said that everything will be different from now on. I also documented this externally with a certain symbolism. And then we reinvented Bild. Of course, we want to prolong the life cycle of our print business as long as possible. Print, for us, is still by far the biggest moneymaker. But we simply have to recognize there won't be any growth on paper anymore. And unfortunately, print newspapers are dying much faster than you probably think. In 2015, in the US, shrinking print media accounted only for 4% of people's time, but captured 16% of the ad revenue. On the other hand, rising mobile devices captured a quarter of people's time, but only about 1/8 of ad spending. The good news, here's an opportunity of billions of dollars. Fortunately, we are not in the paper business. Our business model is journalism. We are storytellers. And to be honest, the journalistic possibilities on paper are very limited due to the rhythm of publication, the minimal means of presentation, no sound, no moving images. The good news is, with the instruments provided by today's digital change, we can tell stories in an entirely different way. We can report digitally everything we want without any technical limitation, and we can do this 24/7. Journalism is the soul of Bild. But the best story, the best picture is useless if it doesn't find its way to the reader. The young audience, as I said before, will not come to us. We have to go to them. We have to go where they are. Fortunately, this is part of our DNA as well. We are not only good at telling stories, the brand Bild has always been where our readers were. In the 1970s and 1980s of the last century, we established the largest sales network that any newspaper has around the globe. Bild has more than 100,000 selling points. When people stopped going to the news agents, we started selling Bild in bakeries and discount supermarkets. Now, again, we have to go where our audience is, onto the digital platforms and especially mobile end devices. For that purpose, we had to completely reorganize our workflow to become a unique content machine that serves by one organization all platforms, from print to digital. This started very simple with our newsroom. For 50 years, for half a century, the newsroom was organized like the Spanish court ceremony. There was space for the king, that was me, and all of my deputies. Nobody else was allowed to sit there. Today, we have created a climate in which knowledge, expertise, and common responsibility can grow. Nowadays, at our ring on the 16th floor of the Springer Publishing House, it's not the bosses who have space, but rather the experts for social media, SEO, video, paid content, news platforms, mobile. Small teams with very flat hierarchies. This is how we operate the newsroom nowadays, more like a co-working space. We also had to drop a fundamental standard of our DNA, perfection. To be honest, risk-taking was not one of our core competences. Let me describe it like this. Bild is the best-known media brand in Germany. For decades, we put nothing, absolutely nothing onto the market that did not work 100%. Risks were forbidden. They might have done harm to the brand. Today, we act according to the Bild beta principle. You are allowed and even encouraged to fail with projects. That is why we try out a lot of things. To this end, we have installed a task force that discusses which contents fits best with which platform. Our aim is to give people the information and entertainment they want and need, at the right time, at the right place, in the perfect format, optimized for the end device that they are using. Here's just one example how we bring our best content to all platforms, from Bild.de to Instagram. Our chief reporter, Paul Ronsheimer, at the front line in Kobane. So even if 43% of social media users don't know where the story they read originally appeared, our readers, they know where they are. While we are doing this, we are learning every day. For example, we have to keep in mind that in Germany, our young users in particularly often have data plans with only 500 MBs per month. So it might be recommendable to post videos in time slots when they are not at school, but at home and connected to Wi-Fi. During a 4-week trial run, we sent push notifications about football clubs to our app users at 7 o'clock in the morning. For the same period of time, we sent news about football clubs at 10 o'clock in the evening. What we saw was the evening pushing was 23% more successful. One of our biggest challenges is size. Bild has always been relying on size, on big pictures. But 54% of all access to our site nowadays is via mobile. 54%. That means that, as of June this year, Bild's mobile traffic, for the first time, is bigger than the desktop traffic and has more than doubled since 2013. Actually, our mobile traffic is bigger than the stationary traffic of number 2 and 3 in Germany. So, we had to start thinking about stories in a way that would work on this small screens of a smartphone. Our mobile team doesn't only optimize content for any device, from Samsung's phones to Apple Watches. They also publish topics while taking into account different peak times and the interests of an audience that is much younger than our stationary audiences. We also invented the news app Bild Buzz. Bild Buzz learns which topics the user finds really interesting and sends them to his or her phone as a push message. We now have nearly 190,000 downloads. Each user takes the app 3 times a day and uses it for 10 minutes. This way, we use the smartphone screen as an independent news platform. Of course, we are also on Snapchat. What started as a purely editorial group now includes people responsible for monetization, strategy, and data. For our organization, this is a completely new approach, and so far it really has been successful. Let's talk about Facebook. Facebook, with its 1.6 billion users worldwide, this is more than 10 times the population of Russia. If Facebook were a country today, it would be the biggest country in the world. In Germany, nearly 30 million people are registered with Facebook. So, of course, it was really important for us, for example, to be the first partner of instant articles on Facebook. We are also the first publisher worldwide who decided to run several tests with the closed social network Facebook Messenger. Why are messenger services interesting for a media brand like Bild? When we started engaging with closed social networks 2 years ago, we observed the first trend which manifests itself at the moment. It's interesting to see that in the list of leading social networks, 4 messaging apps occupy the top 4 spots after Facebook. Of course, people primarily want to be available for their friends and relatives this way, but for users, their favorite TV shows are as important to them as their best friends. Today, we are able to set up and operate a messaging channel on any topic within a few hours. One example is the channel for the show Celebrity Big Brother, which is extremely popular in Germany. We are currently sending out more than 300 articles per day via Facebook Messenger. Of course, the users only receive news they have subscribed to with certain keywords, which means they put together their own newspaper. On Facebook, we started vertical integration at the beginning of the year in order to actively reach target audiences. We now have nearly 6 million Facebook fans on 70 pages. Surprisingly, this also includes sites that don't feature the Bild brand logo. Last March, for example, Futtern was launched. With over 500,000 fans today, it is now Bild's third largest Facebook page. In English, Futtern means to chow down, so it's about cooking, and it now makes up around 10% of our video views on Facebook. What the account shows to us is that the better we are addressing a target group and an emotion that this group can share, the higher the engagement. By the way, we now have nearly 3 million Twitter followers, but Twitter doesn't play any important role for us when it comes to traffic or reach. Facebook also helps us publishers now to make and to become a TV station. For us, this means that for the first time, we, traditional newspapers, publishing houses, don't have to cannibalize ourselves. It is the TV channels, the traditional TV channels, who are now experiencing what print publishing houses experienced 10 years ago. They are being disrupted without any mercy. The main difference is that today, print publishing houses are the ones who are doing the disruption. When CNN arrives with its broadcast van, our reporters have already reported live via their mobile phone and have left again. No surprise. Because these days, with a smartphone for 250 euro and an internet connection, I can be my own TV channel. And this is exactly what we are doing at Bild. For example, we have invented the Periscope pod. Again, Paul, our chief reporter, followed a Syrian refugee for 20 days on his trek from Greece to Germany with only his smartphone and the live streaming app Periscope. Every day, he was reporting live. For this, he received the German Blogger Award. As you know, Periscope was already being surpassed by Facebook Live. Here we are also pioneers in Germany. Over the last 30 days, we have published 500 videos and generated 150 million video views on Facebook. Facebook Live gives us the opportunity to go online anytime with breaking news, even when the big TV stations are offline. When the big German TV stations hardly reported at all during the night of the attempted coup in Turkey, Bild held a major special broadcast for several hours on Facebook Live. It was the second biggest live stream that night worldwide. But it's not only good for breaking news. Bild Daily, our daily news show on Facebook Live, is also very successful. It is specially made for smartphones, 4 to 5 minutes long, and always with subtitles, so you can watch it on the subway without sound. We have up to 100,000 viewers every day. And that's really the best, Facebook even pays for our videos and gives us logistical support. For example, when we produced our live show during the US election directly from the Facebook office in New York. So even if we publishers are not quite sure whether Facebook is our friend, we know it is not our enemy either. So for the time being, we call Facebook our frenemy. Moreover, Bild is the first big medium in Germany that takes its users to 360-degree reports. For instance, to the most dangerous front line in the world, Sinjar or Aleppo in Syria, or to a Greek Coast Guard rescue boat helping refugees. With these reports, you are in the middle of the events and not only witnessing them. So, what have we learned about video so far? You have to use the right formats. The video must work without sound. The perfect video is 30 to 40 seconds long. Show the best image first. No one-way broadcasting. Users want to interact. Of course, we don't just do that all for our own sake. It's also about business success. Our paid content strategy makes us mildly optimistic. Do you remember when people used to say that news has to be free because nobody would pay for it on the internet? Well, with Bild Plus, we convinced so far 340,000 people to agree for paid subscription for our freemium model. This is, by the way, more digital subscribers than any printed newspaper in Germany is having today. This is really important for us because every Bild Plus subscriber is 15 times more valuable to us than someone who only watches the AdWords. In order to achieve the success, we had to, and still do, regularly review all journalistic approaches, concepts, beliefs, and ideas. Take exclusivity, for example. Exclusivity no longer exists in the digital world. Everything spreads within a matter of seconds. We therefore have to redefine exclusivity. In the future, exclusivity will mean telling a story in a unique, unmistakable Bild way. Bild must want to read it on our platform. I said before that you should love your employees. We love our employees so much that, as an incentive, we sent them to Los Angeles for half a year, to our villa with a swimming pool, if they want to apply for it. Why? Very simple. Bild.de used to be produced at night by a night shift in Berlin. You know how unpopular this kind of job is. This is why we opened an office in Los Angeles. 5 colleagues work from there on our homepage while it is in the middle of the night in Berlin. In the US, it's daytime and the sun is shining. The results are amazing. Very happy employees, plus a dramatic increase in the traffic at night and in the early morning. The number prove our decision was right. At the time of our highest circulation on paper, our reach was smaller than it is today. With print and online combined, we now reach 38 million people every month. 38 million. We accepted that there are some users we have excluded. As the first media brand in Germany, Bild locked out users with an active ad blocker, because a reach that we cannot monetize is useless to us. We now have 10% less reach, but 100% of our users see the AdWords. One thing is clear. This beta phase will never end. Disruption is a process, not an event. I said to you at the beginning, digitization is primarily an opportunity, even if we are just at the beginning. And even though one should not be arrogant, we have reason to be mildly optimistic. Karl Lagerfeld, I guess after Till Lindemann from Rammstein, a quite popular German too, used to say, credit is never granted based on the past alone. I like this sentence because it is both honest and true. It doesn't matter how successful we used to be. We cannot buy anything with that today. However, another thing is also true. In times of fake news, what is the value of journalism? What can professional media people give what they don't get elsewhere on the internet? It's very simple. It is trust. Spasiba.
Kai, thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. We have time only for one question. If there is one question in the audience.
There's a question.
Okay.
Алло. Вот. Можно на русском или попытаться сформулировать?
Можно на русском, мы попросим перевести.
Хорошо. Тогда такой вопрос. Не видите ли вы угрозы, когда вы идете на различные платформы, такие как Snapchat, Facebook и прочие мессенджеры, не видите ли вы угрозы попасть в тотальную зависимость от этих платформ? Потому что уже давно не секрет, что Facebook начинает все больше и больше закручивать гайки по части охватов, начинает диктовать, какие заголовки писать изданиям, сам решает, кому из вашей аудитории, подписчиков вашей страницы показывать.
This is why we call them frenemies. They are not our friends and they are not our enemies. But actually, we don't have any choice. Because since the new audience is not coming physically to a kiosk to look for paper, but they are on these platforms, Facebook is the new kiosk for us. And that's why we have to be there. And of course, it's a challenge because, you know, they don't see the brand. They don't see what we create, how we curate our stories. And we don't know what kind of algorithm is behind. That's why we are talking to them. It is in their interest as well to have this content, and they want our content, because our content, the content created by media brands, is at the end the engaging content on these sites. Of course, there is a danger of being in a dependency, but I think we don't have to have this discussion anymore. With 1.6 billion people being on this platform, this is where we have to be with our content. People don't come to us anymore. We have to make sure that our stories find their readers, and this is on these platforms. There are risks, and that's why we are dealing with them. And we are quite happy, at least with Facebook, because to our impression, they are listening to us. Kind of different from Google, you know, who just came over us and monetized our content. When we talked about instant articles, they are listening to us. When we talk about videos, they are listening to us. And if it's, for example, right now, you know, paid content is really important to the publishers. And we haven't found a solution yet on Facebook, but we are talking to them. And finally, we'll find a solution how they can promote our paid content as well. Of course, there is a danger, but I think there is no alternative.
Okay, any more questions?
Over there.
Что вы думаете о мессенджере Telegram и выделяете ли вы его среди других мессенджеров?
Telegram? Actually, I have to confess, we are working with Facebook Messenger right now because they simply allow us to do so, and I have to confess that Telegram Messenger is something I don't know about.
It was short.
But to give you one more thing, when I said we are trying to be successful on Snapchat again, because we see that all the young people are on Snapchat right now in Germany, our talks with them regarding the business model has not been successful. What they ask us, the way they want to share the AdWord money, is something we had to decline. For example, that is why we are not being on Discovery on Snapchat in the future.
It was short. So another question.
Скажите, пожалуйста, как вы стимулируете людей покупать или выписывать вашу газету, если они могут тот же контент смотреть у вас в ваших онлайн-источниках, им это более удобно и, соответственно, нет... То есть зачем им тогда газета, читателям вашим, и почему вы ее сохраняете?
Because, as I said before, there are many people of my age in Germany, born in 1964. Actually, I'm the most German. There are no more people born in any other year than in 1964. And we grew up with paper. So paper is part of our DNA. So there's still a big audience that, loves the habit of reading a newspaper, of having this curated model, one size fits all. That's why they are still going to the kiosk every day and buying the newspaper. But it's not a growing market, it's less. Because on the other end, from 90 years old on, they are simply dying. So it's a question of generation. We've got the young generation, we've got the millennials, they don't want paper anymore, they use the screen. So we can address them with our digital content. And then we still have got this really big part. Still, it's around 1.9 million people who every day could go to the kiosk and buy the newspaper. It's not a growing market, but it's still there. This has to do with the German demography. Demography in the United States is like this. In a country like Turkey, it's like this. Demography in Germany is like this. And I'm here at the upper end. And that's why we still have got a lot of people who actually do not want to read it on a screen. They want to read it on paper, fortunately.
Добрый день. У меня такой вопрос. А монетизируете ли вы ваши социальные представительства в Фейсбуке, Снэпчате? Какими видами рекламы? Есть ли у вас отдельные селзовые команды, которые этим занимаются? Как это устроено? Вы могли бы это рассказать? Спасибо.
Actually, we monetize our content on Facebook. We do not monetize our content on Snapchat right now because we couldn't agree on a business model over there. And Facebook is letting us monetizing our content. We simply sell it to the audience, to advertisers. We are regarding video, especially Facebook Live, we are simply testing new formats. There is no final business model, but for example, if we do a Facebook live stream, we ask advertising customers, they can present it. So you have a banner, this stream is presented by. And Facebook so far let us do this. They encourage us simply to try and test out new ways of how to monetize it over there. We've got a big problem regarding data regulation, protection regulation in Germany. So even if Facebook wants to share with us their data insights about our audience and how to target them, we are not allowed to take these insights regarding German data protection law. So Facebook, operating as an American company, they can target our audience better than we can do it ourselves. This is something we are talking to politics about.
Thank you very much, Kai. Thank you very much for your questions.
Thank you very much.